Is imagination simply contained in the mind? Or does it tap into an unseen world with messages waiting to be told? There is a place where legends cross over into our world, where strange visions and whispers beckon, and superstition takes hold. Step into the Black Cat's shadow.
Welcome back to the Black Cat Shadow, a podcast where we talk about some of your favorite horror movies and how they parallel some folklore, urban legends, true crime, and other weird events that happen in real life. I'm your host, Andy, podcasting from Kansas City, Missouri, and joining me today is my co-host, Dakota. How's it going today, Dakota?
Oh, it's excellent. Had a great day today. Did some cool research into our open discussion today.
Cool, yeah. Talking about our episode today, it's kind of a bonus episode, I guess, if you want to call it that, because we missed a week in November because of the holiday, so we wanted to fit in another episode before our Christmas episode. So today we're going to be doing some random movie reviews. We're going to talk about some movies that we've seen recently, and give you some quick little reviews and our thoughts on them. And Dakota, I think that you said that you found a list of like horror DVD releases for the month of December.
Oh yeah, a few of them already passed. Obviously, one of them it released on December 6th. It's called The Possession Experiment. Not too familiar with it. Never heard anything about it. I think it was just one of those direct to DVD releases.
Yeah.
Then there was The Remains, also came out on December 6th. I think I'm going to check that one out because it looks pretty interesting. It looks like one of those kind of movies that, not like a zombie movie, obviously, like you would assume that the name The Remains kind of allures to zombie, but I think it's more of like a ghost paranormal type movie. I think there's one called I'm Not a Serial Killer. I think it's more of a documentary, kind of focusing on like the serial killer genre, but I'm not too sure. I'm just reading down the list here.
Yeah, I've heard that one actually has Christopher Lloyd in it. I think it's actually a movie.
Okay, yeah, I just found the summary of it. It says here, a troubled teen with homicidal tendencies has to hunt down and destroy a supernatural killer while suppressing his own inner demons. I mean, that sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, it definitely interested to check that one out. Especially with Christopher Lloyd. I mean, always plays a crazy character. You know, he's a good actor. You know, you're going to get
definitely
something good from him.
Let's see. There's a couple more on this list. Let's see. The Disappointments Room. That releases on the 20th. Rob Zombie made another movie. It's called 31. It looks kind of like a post-apocalyptic movie. If anybody's seen like any of his like his movies he's made, like I think he did a remake of the Halloween movie, wasn't it? Or was
yeah, he did the Halloween remake with the 1 and 2, which when I first saw those movies, I didn't really like him as much, but I recently watched him this fall, and I have to say I really do like his movies, or his Halloween movies are better than what I thought anyway.
Okay. See, those were all like the DVD releases for December, but there is a movie that I saw a trailer for called The Bilko Experiment.
Oh yeah, I think I did watch a trailer for that the other day. It looks interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be like one of those kind of movies that it's almost like a Saw type movie, but not to the extreme of like the gory like tear down of the human psyche, but it's really going to hit on some real tough issues with humans. And we talked about psychological horror, and I think that's really going to be a good example of that.
Yeah, it says it's a twisted social experiment. 80 Americans are locked in their high-rise corporate office in Bogota, Colombia, and ordered by an unknown voice coming from the company's intercom system to participate in a deadly game of kill or be killed. So yeah, definitely that one will hit on the psychological vein there of movies. That one looks interesting. The release date's not till March of next year, so we got a little while to wait on that one.
Yeah, but I think it'll be one of those movies that we kind of nerd out over. I mean, we tend to nerd out over movies that aren't like people like me and you. We kind of get into this funk of like watching regular movies, and that's kind of why we did it's kind of why we had the 5-minute frenzy challenge where we watch movies outside of our own realm. I think this will be kind of one of those kind of movies that we kind of watch and see if it really does kind of hit on some real some horror elements.
Yeah, and it looks like it's got Michael Rooker in it too. He's good. He's from The Walking Dead and, well, lots of other things. Henry the Portrait of a Serial Killer back in the 80s, and he was in Guardians of the Galaxy too. So he's been in a lot of things. But
oh yeah, I love Michael Rooker. He's a great actor.
Yeah, so that's a good one to look for. The Belko Experiment, yeah. So yeah, that gives you guys some things to look at, for your Christmas list, some DVDs that are coming out this month, and also another place you can look for movies for your holiday shopping. You can check out my eBay page. I have a eBay page where I sell I try to find more obscure horror movies, things that are out of print, and I sell them on there. And I sell them for fair prices. There's a link for that on the Black Cat Shadow website. It's www.blackcatshadow.com.
What the hell is wrong with you two?
I am looking forward to the Christmas season though, because there's going to be a lot of Christmas horror movies that play on like HBO and Cinemax and stuff. But like a video store, here in Olathe that we go to, they have some like Christmas horror movies. I mean, I went there last night and looked at some of the list of some of them. They have the first Krampus, and they have Krampus 2, which was kind of a direct-to-DVD movie, kind of just not meant to be not to be like kind of like a horror comedy like the first one. It was more meant to be serious.
I was gonna say, the thing about the Krampus movies, there was been like several off-brand Krampus movies come out. So you had like the big one that came out in theaters, but then you've got some of these other ones that have been direct to DVD. So I guess you got to be careful what you're seeing. Make sure. I mean, if you want to see the ones that are direct to DVD, that's fine. But like, I think some of the sequels that are out there are the sequels to like the direct to DVD version of Krampus, not the one that came out in theaters here a while back, or last year, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always kind of wary about watching like the B horror movies, because I mean sometimes they're not that good. I think specifically the direct to DVD ones, but I mean, you watch movies on the Chiller, I know like direct to TV and Dish both have the Chiller channel,
yeah,
which has like all like the horror movies. I mean, I just watched Tales from the Crypt. I mean, that's pretty old school, and I mean it was pretty awesome to watch that.
Now, did you watch the TV show or one of the movies?
The TV show.
Oh,
actually.
yeah, okay.
They have they play the TV show at like 2:00 in the morning.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I love that show. I wish I could. I don't have cable, but if I did, I would definitely be checking that out, because I remember when Tales from the Crypt came out when I was, a kid, and I wasn't really allowed to watch it. Of course, it was on cable, and we didn't have cable when I was a kid. So I didn't get a chance to watch it growing up. So I want to go back and watch through I think there's like 9 or 10 seasons of it. I don't know. I lost track, but
I actually think they're on Netflix.
Really? Okay, I'm gonna have to look at that, because I definitely want to go through and watch those episodes, because that's it's a horror TV show that you always hear people talking about, and it is like a classic TV series. So I feel like I should have seen that by now.
Yeah. Also, if you don't like people that don't have cable out there, you can get Sling, the little Sling box, or the little Sling little TV casting thing. Or if you have a Roku or like an Apple TV, you can download the Sling app and pay it's like $20 a month, and you can get any channel you want. You don't have to get like the regular local channels with it. You can just pick and choose what channels you want.
So it just works off your internet then?
Yeah, it just runs off your internet. So I mean, if you have internet connection, you just hook it up to that little like I said, if you have like a Roku or even like for Xbox or anybody with a gaming system, you can download the app for Sling and just pay that $20 a month or whatever it is for these select channels.
That's really cool that you can like just pick and choose what channels you want. You don't have to get like the 150 channels where you only watch 5 of them.
Yeah, I mean, most cable is useless. I mean, you get your like 5 local channels, and then you get like your 10 favorite channels. Like for us, it'd be like the Sci-Fi Channel, Chiller, like Spike TV, TNT, those channels.
Yeah. So you mentioned being wary of B movies or direct to DVD because you don't want to take a chance on seeing a crappy movie. Well, I've got one for you today. I want to talk about a movie called Howling 2, Your Sister's a Werewolf. And yes, it's as bad as it sounds. I have to say that this is one that there's a lot of nostalgia for me with this movie because I saw it first as a kid and I loved it, and I still like it a lot just for the nostalgia. But and it came out like in 1985, so it's an older movie. But the thing is, like, so I've always like held this up as like my favorite of the Howling franchise, and kind of like told people to check it out. But like after watching it this last time, I knew it was a bad movie, but I'm just kind of realizing that like how bad it really is, and so to kind of get into some of the cast and crew of this movie, it was directed by Philippe Mora, and he also directed The Howling Part 3, which is called The Marsupials, which I hated that third movie. And then he also directed Communion from 1989 that starred Christopher Walken, which I was surprised. Well, I mean, I haven't actually seen Communion, but it seems like it would be a decent movie. This movie was written by Robert Sarno, and he's only got 2 movies, this movie and one other movie to his credit, so after you see this movie, you don't have to really wonder why too much. And it was based on the novel by Gary Brandner, but I don't think it has too much to do with the actual novel. And of course, this stars the infamous Christopher Lee. He's, very well known as being Dracula in the Hammer horror movies. And countless other, I think everybody that's into horror knows who Christopher Lee is. And, it's funny that he made a movie of this caliber, and he must have been doing a favor for somebody. But, and the only other notable person in the cast is Sybil Danning. And she's just she's like, blonde, really good looking from the 80s, so basically, her looks are basically what she's got going for her. She played the main bad guy in this movie, or the main villain. I think she's been in a lot of other movies, but the ones that I know her in was she was in one of the Rob Zombie Halloween remakes. She was in the first one. I think she played a nurse. She was just kind of a bit part. And then she was also in Grindhouse in one of the fake previews. The movie was called Werewolf Women of the SS. She was in that one too. And so that kind of like, that's kind of a nod back to this movie, Howling 2, because she plays a werewolf in that trailer. So anyway, to give you like an idea of what this movie is about, so this is the second movie in the Howling franchise. This movie picks up kind of after the first movie. It picks up at the funeral of Karen from the first Howling movie. Karen is the main protagonist of the first movie. So this picks up at her funeral because spoiler alert, she dies at the end of the first movie. So anyway, it picks up at her funeral. Her brother Ben he's there at the funeral, of course, but he is approached by a man named Stefan, which is Christopher Lee. And Stefan proceeds to tell Ben that Karen was in fact a werewolf, and that she had somebody kill her on purpose to rid her of the curse of being a werewolf. And well, Ben, he doesn't really take this well, and he pretty much tells Stefan where he can go, And so there's also a reporter friend of Karen's named Jenny, and she wants to interview Stefan, and so she talks to Stefan, and she finds out about this. This is when she learns about the Great Werewolf Conspiracy. So Jenny and Ben are kind of like, and Stefan are kind of like our main protagonists of the movie. So Jenny convinces Ben, which was the brother, to go and meet with Stefan and hear him out. So they go to Stefan's house, and Stefan, he tells Ben that he's going to go back to the cemetery that night to protect Karen's body from being taken by the other werewolves. But then actually Ben figures out that Stefan is also plans to drive a titanium knife into her chest to fully kill her, because in this movie, titanium is what kills the werewolves, or at least the leader werewolves. He calls them the immune. So Ben, he sees this as a desecration of his sister's grave, so he's going to go to the graveyard too and try to stop Stefan, and all the while, Jenny, the reporter's that kind of tagging along. Well, it turns out that Stefan was correct, and there are werewolves, and Ben shoots several during the cemetery scene, and so this convinces him to help Stefan rid the world of the werewolf menace with Jenny in tow. So, they find out that they have to travel to Transylvania to find and kill the werewolf leader, which is named Sturba, which is Sybil Danning, and probably one of the most ridiculous villain costumes I've seen in a movie. She's supposed to be like this werewolf witch, I guess. When you first see her, she's like this old lady, and she has like these superpowers, and then she sucks the life out of somebody and turns into Sybil Danning, this young blonde woman. So that's pretty much what the movie's about. Like I said earlier, this has a lot of nostalgia for me. But after watching it recently with more of a critical eye, and I really noticed some of the specific flaws. The acting of Sybil Danning and the other werewolves was just atrocious. It was really bad. But I really liked the beginning of this movie, with the Christopher Lee monologue.
For it is written, the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with her blood. And I saw her sit upon a hairy beast, and she held forth a golden chalice full of the filthiness of her fornications. And upon her forehead was written, Behold, I am the great mother of harlots and all abominations of the earth.
He was reading from the book of Revelation from the Bible. I thought that scene was really cool. And then the warehouse scene with the new wave punks. There's like this scene where this new wave band is singing a song, and basically it's like the theme song for the movie. And I actually really love the song, it's great music. But so there's a scene where like these new wave punk, 80s punks, they get killed by the werewolves in this old abandoned warehouse. And I think that was a really cool scene. But once they travel to Transylvania, this movie really falls off the rails. But in Transylvania, the production design is not bad. They film at some really cool locations. Sturba, which is the werewolf queen or whatever, she has this castle that she lives in, and it looks really good. The village looks good that they're filming at. But the makeup of the main werewolves are horrible. It's like just glued on extra hair. It really looks bad. They actually have some of the werewolves actually go full werewolf, and turn more into like monsters, and I like those better because they look better. But it did have some good special effects, like some good gore. There was like an eye popping out scene, which was good. So those were some of the redeeming qualities of the movie. And like I said, the director for this movie, he also directed the third movie in the franchise, which I hated. But you can see traces of it in this movie. So yeah, I guess it's no surprise. But this one stuck out more. This one was a little bit better because it kept the werewolves as being monsters, and there was more action. Whereas in the third movie of the trilogy, it was like the werewolves were trying to like assimilate into society. They were trying to like be normal and not be monsters and stuff. And there was too much social commentary. When you're watching a werewolf movie, you're not going into it for social commentary. You're going into it to see people change into werewolves. You see violence and gore. So even though it did have some good gore to it in this movie, the action scenes were kind of like convoluted. The cinematography wasn't that great during these scenes. The action scenes were just like a bunch of really tight camera shots, and you couldn't really tell like who was being attacked or who was doing the attacking. So that kind of sums up my thoughts on it, on Howling 2, Your Sister's a Werewolf. So out of 10, I'm going to give this a 3, and that's even adding a point on for nostalgia. I would say don't go see this unless you're a fan of bad movies. About the only place that this is really streaming is on an app called Tubi TV. It's streaming with ads, and you can find that on your Roku.
What do you say you and I move away from Mom together? It's a promise.
You're leaving?
Yeah, as soon as I have the money.
When are you coming back?
Never.
Yo, I got our ticket out of here. Rumor is this guy is sitting on at least $300K.
That's her guy.
Wait, is he blind?
We messed up to rob a blind guy, isn't it?
Just because he's blind don't mean he's insane, bro.
Guys, money's probably in there.
Who's there?
Stay right there.
How many of you are there?
We're trapped in here.
There has to be a way out of here. He's coming.
Now you're gonna see what I see.
So let's see, Dakota, you recently saw Don't Breathe. Go ahead and go into your review.
All right, so going into Don't Breathe, we kind of had this assumption that it was going to be really very terrifying just because of being in the dark. In a way, it is still a horror movie, but I believe it's more of a thriller. They kind of played it off to be something really scary, and it was. There were some scary moments in the movie, but I know I told you that my fiance doesn't like horror movies. I actually made her sit down and watch this with me, and she actually enjoyed it.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, that kind of tells you it's not as scary as they let it on. We talked about how the movie follows these three kids that they're actually living in Detroit, and they're trying to get out of this town. They're trying to have a better life. When they find out this guy is a Gulf War veteran, whose daughter gets killed. She gets killed by this rich girl, hit her with a car, and her family paid him off to pretty much like pay for the emotional damage that they did to him. But kind of as the movie goes on, I'm not going to get into too much spoilers, but you find out that he's not really as innocent as he can be, being a blind guy. Like all in all, if you're actually sitting down to be scared, you're gonna be disappointed if you're like a hardcore horror fan. But if you're into those like really like action thriller slash horror movies, you would get into it just because it's fast paced, and it will get your heart pumping because you don't know what's gonna happen around the next bend because you are in the dark.
Yeah, I love those kind of movies. I'm looking forward to that. Is it like a longer movie?
It's actually it's a regular length movie. So I think it's like an hour and 45 minutes. So it's almost 2 hours long. Okay. It's very quick because there's always something going on. There's barely any slow moments, but when there are slow moments, it's filled with something. It's filled with some sort of dialogue. It's very convincing, very heartfelt, or very emotional. The movie does hit on some emotional aspects too, talking about the main bad guy in it. I'm not going to call him a bad guy because he's not a bad guy. He's mainly talking about the love between, nobody will ever know the love between a father and his child, and so it kind of hits on an emotional level for me, being a single father. You kind of see where he's coming at and why he's so defensive about his home. Yeah, but, yeah. For me, it was a solid 10 out of 10, just because I'm a big fan of Sam Raimi as a director and a writer and a producer. And it was very, very convincing.
Yeah, I love those movies that keep you on the edge of your seat and even though it's maybe a longer movie, it goes by really quick because it's just well paced and and the subject matter is interesting.
We kind of talked about how movies break the mold, and it broke the mold. It really went outside the realm of horror and kind of brought in other elements, and it really did do a great job. A lot of people would debate it just because it's not as scary as it should be, but it is in a way. It still has some aspects of horror that mainly touch more emotionally than it does like physical horror.
So would you say these characters, like the characters, are people that you actually like care about through the course of the movie?
Oh, definitely. For me, I sympathize with 3 of the 4 characters in the movie. Well, 5. There's 5 characters in the whole movie that are very important, but I only sympathize with 3 of them. I mean, we kind of, in the beginning of it, we kind of see how the movie kind of progresses. And like, even from the trailer, you can kind of see, it almost tells the story in the trailer. And I think we talked about how the trailer did a really good job of already getting our interest. When you go into the movie, you kind of have this feeling you know what's going to happen. And it does kind of happen. What you think is going to happen does happen. But, I sympathize with, the main character is a female. Her name is Rocky. I sympathize with her. I sympathize with the old man. I forgot what his name is in the movie. And I sympathize with the best friend. I don't sympathize with Rocky's boyfriend in it at all because he's kind of a douchebag.
Yeah, okay. Now, it seemed like there was like parts of the movie that were like in night vision, like, you know, where all the lights are turned off. Is there like a lot of the movie that's seen like using night vision or on a camera?
It's actually only about 10 minutes of the movie. That's done with night vision. I did a little research into it. The actual part that they did in that movie was filmed by their own reaction. The directors told them to act naturally in the dark, and they're going to film it all. So it's very convincing. But no, like I said, just about 10 minutes, but that 10 minutes is effective.
You know, just the house that guy lives in seems like an interesting setting.
Yeah, and the house plays its own character in its own way, just because it's very, there's a lot of twists and turns in the house, especially for somebody who's blind. It's kind of confusing, and you would think that somebody who's blind would not have a very good reaction to his own home, but you'd be wrong. The guy is very, very crafty and very. But there's a scene in it where he, because we saw from the trailer that they break out a window to get into the house. There's a scene in it where he actually takes a hammer and a nail to the window, and he does it perfectly. I understand the guy's not really blind in real life, but working with some people that have been blind, you kind of sympathize with them, I guess, because it's hard for them to do tasks like that. But this guy is so resourceful. I mean,
yeah,
it's I think that's kind of what's scary about him, is that he's blind, but he's still so resourceful.
Right. Well, cool, man. That sounds like a good movie. I'm going to check that one out. I'll probably have to wait till. Well, I guess it's out on Blu-ray, right, or DVD?
Oh, it's out on Blu-ray and then DVD. I mean, I picked it up at I rented it from a movie store. I think it's at Walmart. It's at Walmart for like $14.99. Okay. Blu-ray is like, I think it's like $20 on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Look, it's not my fault, Sergeant. Christ and saints are out of fashion. Satan's all the rage these days.
Listen, boy. You keep getting on my nerves, and I'm going to give you another kind of house to look after. One with lots of bars in the windows.
I can just imagine the sergeant's face when he finds out.
Craig, can you hear me?
Sergeant, they're dead people trying to kill me!
Look, I know it sounds silly, but is it possible? I mean, could a film fail to catch an image for any reason?
Well, a ghost, maybe.
All right. So then, you're talking about like a newer movie, and then, so I'm going to go back and, for my last review, I'm going to go back and talk about another older movie. I don't know why, I just ended up watching older movies for some reason. But I checked out this movie. It's called Let Sleeping Corpses Lie from 1974. It goes by another name of The Living Dead at Manchester Morgue. So you can find it under either one of those names. The synopsis, it is, and it's kind of like an average length of, it's like an hour and a half. So your plot is, there's a man named George. and he's traveling to his friend's house, and he's on a motorcycle, and he stops for gas, and a woman named Edna, she accidentally backs into his motorcycles and damages his motorcycle so he can't drive it. So he has to leave it at the shop, at the garage there, and they have to fix it for him. But so he gets Edna to give him a ride to where he wants to go. But, well, actually, he drives because he says he doesn't want her to drive down the street in reverse. So he's kind of comes off as a jerk, but I guess I can understand that, like, just having your motorcycle, like, smashed and, you know, and so I can understand being a little ill-tempered at this point. So, you know, they both have places that they need to get to, but Edna convinces George to take her to her sister's house first. So, on the way, they actually have to stop to ask directions. And so while George is talking to some local scientists, these scientists are working on a new machine that is like a form of chemical-free pesticide. It basically sends out these like subsonic sound waves or radiation or something like that. And it's supposed to cause lower forms of life like bugs to kill each other. And it, you know, so it only affects the more primitive nervous systems. So while George is there talking to them, they do a test run with the machine. And, you know, after this test is run, lo and behold, Edna she's like waiting by the car. And lo and behold, she's attacked by this guy that's like stumbling around. He's like dripping wet and he has these red eyes, you know. And so she quickly runs off. She runs to George and the other guys to tells them what happened. And, you know, after she describes the man that attacked her, the locals, they don't really believe her because the man that she describes has been dead for like a week. He drowned in the nearby river. And so, George and the other men, they go back to their car to check things out, and they don't find anything. So, you know, George and Edna, they go on their way to her sister's house, and when they get there, they find out that her sister's husband has been murdered, and that Edna's sister is the prime suspect. So that's kind of like your general plot. But, you know, it's not really a surprise, but this is a zombie movie. If you look at the title, or the cover art, you know, you see zombies. But the story definitely takes an interesting direction, because there's I don't want to get into spoilers, but they've done something really cool with the story on this one. You know, in the opening credits, this movie has a really creepy score that I like a lot. And just the overall score, there's lots of moaning and breathing noises, especially when the zombies are around, you know, and they were all made by the director. It's really effective. And the acting is good in this movie. And the zombies, they look great. There's not much makeup to them. Like, they're pretty much all like fresh corpses, so they're not like, they don't have like skin falling off or anything like that. But they have like these red contact lenses, and it looks really cool when it like shows a close up of their faces. And just, you know, so there's really good acting with those actors playing zombies. But later on in the movie, there is a zombie that, he does have some more effects to make it, you know, because of the situation. He has some more like makeup on him. But I thought the writing was good. Like I said, the story takes an interesting turn. You know, with the way the zombies are murdering people and our main hero's interaction with the police and stuff like that. And there's a scene where a zombie attacks a man during a photo shoot, and it's at night, and his camera's like shooting the whole time while he's being attacked, and so the flash is going off. And so like the whole time that this guy's being attacked, the scene is being lit by the flash of the camera. I think it's really cool. It kind of really adds to the creep factor of that scene. And another thing, you know, the zombies' behavior is really intriguing. You know, they kind of, you know, the cause of the zombies is not really a mystery. They pretty much, you know, show that right off the bat, but they seem to have some intelligence to them, and the way that new zombies are created is really interesting too. Later on in the movie, there's a scene at the graveyard, and I guess a little trivia, behind this scene is the graveyard that they shot at was the graveyard where supposedly Little John from the Robin Hood legend was buried at. And I guess they had some trouble with tourists coming and walking through their sets and things like that while they were trying to film. So they had to do like the filming in like one day for this graveyard scene. But I really like the scene because it's like one of the best scenes in the movie. You know, it involves kind of a short siege in a creepy cellar. there's a lot to like in this movie. But obviously it's not a perfect movie. There are some plot holes. Like there's a thing where like a zombie walks to a destination quicker than the characters can drive there, you know? So I think that's really hard to explain. I think that's pretty much just a plot hole. And some of the cinematography was a little bit confusing. And I think sometimes you see that, like this was a Spanish movie or an Italian movie, so I think sometimes you see some of the cinematography is done differently, and I think sometimes it doesn't make sense in a certain way. And it's kind of confusing why they pick certain shots. And so some of the shots just didn't work for me. And also the ending was a little bit of a stretch, but it was a pretty good payoff otherwise. So for my rating for this movie, I'm actually giving this one a 7.5 out of 10. I'm saying go see it. It's right now, if you have, I have a Full Moon streaming. It's like a streaming service from Full Moon, the movie company that, Charles Band, you know, he makes like the Puppet Master movies and, Killjoy and those movies. But they have a streaming service where they stream the Full Moon movies, but they also stream like a lot of like the Blue Underground stuff, like the old Grindhouse video stuff too. So they have a lot of like the older classics and like a lot of Italian horror on there too. But then this is also streaming on Shudder too. So for all you people that have Shudder, you can check it on there. You can rent it pretty cheap at Google Play and iTunes and Vudu and Amazon. So I would say definitely go check that one out.
You did a bad movie and a good movie. I think I might as well do a good movie and a bad movie.
All right.
What big teeth they have. What big guns she has.
Welcome home, Red.
Sci-Fi presents the real story behind the classic tale.
There's only one way to kill a werewolf.
Red Riding Hood isn't little anymore. Felicia Day is Red, Werewolf Hunter,
it's called
a
Red,
sci-fi original movie.
What it is it's just basically just like kind of a modern retelling of Little Red Riding Hood, but it's more or less like kind of goes down the line like the main character is the descendant of the first Little Red Riding Hood. It actually stars Felicia Day. A lot of people know her as Charlie from Supernatural. She's also been in like some random things. She's mainly known as like the ultimate nerd chick, you know. Well, going into the movie, it pretty much follows her and her fiance. She's bringing home to meet her family. When they quickly discover that they're all werewolf hunters already. But Nathan quickly discovers that werewolves are real and that this family hunts them. It's really a short movie. It's probably only I think it's only 75 minutes long. But it's 87 minutes. Never mind. But it kind of gets into a funk of just like nonstop action. But for being like an action horror movie, most of the sci-fi movies are that way. It does a good job of kind of telling a small story of like what would happen if the stories were real, like if werewolves had, or if werewolf hunters still hunted werewolves.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it sounds like the Little Red Riding Hood story actually happened in real life.
Yeah, exactly. There's actually some controversy surrounding this movie, which I find interesting. A lot of the sci-fi original movies, I kind of want to put air quotes on original. Yeah. A lot of their movies are kind of been debated as being stolen, like stolen script ideas. Like the intellectual property BS that goes on. I'm just reading this directly from Wikipedia. It says, with many of the sci-fi's original movies, it has been claimed that the concept for Red Werewolf Hunter was pitched by an independent writer who was never given credit despite that being the deal. While the accusation hasn't been proven, many have corroborated, I don't know how to say that word, insisting that they have heard the pitch over a year prior to the movie's initial announcement. The writer, I did try to do a little research into it real quick, but the writer lives in Buffalo, New York, and he continues to claim that the movie was stolen from him. A lot of the sci-fi originals were supposedly stolen, and it's been a big controversy for like the last 10 years.
Okay, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that's been like publicized really, just because sci-fi has this image that they want to uphold.
Sure, yeah. So how did the werewolves look in this movie?
It was mainly. It's hard to say. There were there's two ways that they did it. It's like very bad CGI.
Okay.
Or very bad practical makeup. I mean, being a minor makeup artist myself, even for me, I think I could have done a little bit better of a job. But I think it was okay. Honestly, I'm gonna give the movie a 5 out of 10 just because it was cheesy. It was too not scary. Just like I said, most of those movies aren't scary. They're just meant to be like action horror.
Yeah, I mean, sci-fi original movies have a reputation for not being the best movies, or being like B-grade movies, which I'm fine with that. I enjoy a good B movie every now and then too.
Yeah, and for me, the movie was mainly eye candy, just because Felicia Day is sexy as hell. And
yeah,
it sounds bad, but I mean, she is the epitome of sexy nerd.
All right.
I'm going to stick with that.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with her. I watched like the first few seasons of Supernatural, but I hadn't. So I guess she must have came up. Did she show up in the later seasons?
Yeah, she was in like almost like season 8 through like 10, I think. Because I mean, I'm not gonna do any spoilers, but it's kind of obvious what happens. But she did really good just for her character. I mean, just very, very on and off kind of character until the last season she was in. So the last season she was in, she played a really crucial part. Which, I mean, I love the show. I mean, I haven't even watched the new season yet just because I haven't had a chance to, which really frustrates me. But anything else that Felicia Day has been in is probably like a couple like podcasts. She does podcasts online. She also has a YouTube channel that she does a few YouTube videos on.
Oh, cool. So she's a fellow podcaster. That's always cool.
Yeah, she is. And I think a lot of hers is mainly like nerd culture. But I mean, that's all I really have for like my current movies and everything. So.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I might even check out the Red Werewolf Hunter because I like B movies. So. Okay, guys, we hope you enjoyed these random movie reviews that we brought today for episode 16, and stay tuned for episode 17. That will be our Christmas episode. We're going to talk about some Christmas urban legends, some Christmas folklore. I'm sure Krampus will pop up there in a couple of spots. So be looking forward to that. And as always, you can find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook. I just have a Facebook page. You can give me a like and check out some of the articles that I post on there. And I was thinking about starting a Facebook group because I think sometimes, just having a Facebook page, people don't really see your Facebook posts that much. I think they see them more if you're in a group. So anyway, but you can also find us on Twitter. Our handle is @BlackCatPodcast, and I try to tweet out some interesting stories in the horror community, or just tweet about some weird stuff happening, just some odds and ends stuff. And also we're over on Horror Amino. Just search for Black Cat Shadow, and you can send us an email at blackcatpodcast@gmail.com if you want to say hi or give us some requests for movies you want us to talk about, or urban legends that you think are creepy and you'd like for us to talk about as well. And also, one easy way to help us out is just to leave us a review on iTunes if that's how you listen to us, to do that. And it doesn't have to be a 5-star review either. Just and it helps us to know how we're doing. Feedback is very valuable to us as podcasters. It just lets us know how we're doing, if people are enjoying what we're doing. So we always appreciate any feedback that you guys want to give to us, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter or email. So definitely hit us up there. So Dakota, is there any thing you want to share with the audience or let them know how to reach you?
Yeah, if you guys want to reach out to me, best way to do it is through email. You can email me at dakshadowbane@gmail.com. DAK Shadowbane, all one word. Reach out to me on there. Talk to me about a couple of your favorite horror movies. See what I can do about doing some more research. If you guys give me some like your Christmas ideas coming up, I might be able to squeeze them into the show if we have some good ideas. Other than that, you can find me on Horror Ramino. Just Rainstorm01, RAIYN, Storm, all one word. You can just look at some of the things I'm doing on there. I actually finally got my Krylon makeup, so I'm gonna be doing a Krampus makeup real soon, which should be kind of fun.
Oh, nice. Yeah. All right. So that'll wrap up the episode then. So remember, guys, to take a closer look at the world around you. You may just find that it's stranger and more mysterious than you thought, especially in the Black Cat's shadow.